Okay, guys, so let's continue. Hello, I'm Luděk Vepřek, and I'm going to talk about building design system components with React and Start components. Firstly, let me introduce myself. I work at kiwi.com as front-end developer, and I'm member of front-end design. I'm member of front-end design platform team. So my biggest focus is developing components for our internal design system. And I have maybe 6+ years experience with design and front-end. Being a part or member of front-end design platform, I care about developer experience the most because I think that's the one of the most important thing for our developers because they are our customers. And what is developer experience? Well, it can be defined pretty similar to user experience. User experience focuses on having an understanding of users, their needs, abilities, and also their value, what they want. The same definition can be applied for developer because your user is your colleague, your developer. Okay, so, but we have some definition, but in practice, what's the developer experience? Developer experience is described that every experience developers have when they use your product, that's the thing. And good developer experience means that it's value for your users. But why does developer experience matters? Why it's so important for me? Well, because developers are human too, or aren't we? I think so that we are. So developer experience matters for the same reason as user experience, and developer or a happy developer means efficient developer, and efficiency is the most key and valuable thing for a company. But in practice, in real world, the developer experience is defined or it consists of many things: CI pipelines, use technology, or I don't know, the design system behind it. So let's focus on the front-end part and let's define and try to answer two questions. What's your developer experience when it comes to developing user interface? And do you need to develop those components? Answer to these questions back 2 years back was, okay, it's terrible. There is no system when comes to developing user interface in kiwi.com, and we wanted to solve it somehow. Also, back then, we had atomic problem because every component was developed many times, and button, like the most atomic component, is the living proof. And why? Because the button was developed 50 times. It cost a lot of money, a lot of time for developers. There were inconsistencies between design and front-end platform. And also it was pain to change, to make some visual changes. So we said, okay, let's change it. And how? With our design system that we call Orbit. Don't ask me why Orbit, because I like the name. But firstly, what is design system? I don't know how many of you knows that. Maybe raise a hand. What is a design system? Okay, so maybe 20%. Design system is the single source of truth which groups of all elements that will allow the teams to develop and realize a product. So in practice, it can consist of guidelines for colors, components, maybe some UI kit in Sketch, and also design tokens that are used for theming or visual branding. It's also common ground for every role in kiwi.com, or maybe even for you, because developer and the designer are speaking in the same language. So when there's a button, for example, the button is button for developer and also for the designer, and it also means that if we have maybe type primary for button, the type is the same for designer and the developer. 1 year ago, the designers have their UI kit in Sketch, but there was no library for frontend, so we said, okay, let's make a library. So we created the repository on GitHub, Orbit-component, and also we said, okay, let's make it fully open source, that anyone can use it and anyone can contribute. But before that, we needed to make some principles how to make the developer experience better. And for this, we are using 4 key points that are from developer experience definition. Come on. And what you see is Maslow's pyramid, kind of. It consists of 4 key points: function, stability, easy to use, and clarity. You actually don't see that, but it's pyramid. Function means the expected behavior, components, features, and other utilities. Stability means the part that it's gonna work, it's gonna be performant. Easy to use means that you have proper documentation, API consistency, and me personally, I take clarity the same thing as easy to use. As I said, this is not the general or basic Maslow's pyramid, because we have some specific line on the right side. It means that if we gonna develop some component, we need to provide all 4 key points at the same time, and then we can build upon that other components. Because when you create only function component, there is no gonna be stability, easy to use, or clarity. Come on. So let's take a look how we actually develop it. We went fully with React because most of the projects are using React, and we also chosen style components because I think it's pretty awesome and probably the best solution for CSS when it comes to components libraries. And we also choose to have some lean approach. That means that we do features and components only upon a request from designer or from developers. Why? Because component that's not going to be used is not valuable and it's like useless totally. We also needed to choose a scope of our components. So based on atomic design from Brad Frost, we are doing only atomic and molecules. So let's say components. Atom can be text link, button, icon, and molecules can be some module component that consists of many other subcomponents. We've got also documentation for the entire design system. It means that there's not only a documentation for React components, but also for colors, design tokens, or I would say vocabulary. The developer can find out here properties that the component accepts, also some accessibility guidelines if necessary, and also functional specification. As I said, we are using styled components for styling or the core CSS. CSS or styled components are here to be successor of CSS modules, and I think that the team is doing a great job. And it allows us to have a plain CSS in JavaScript file. So, yeah, that's it. And also, because it's plain CSS, it's have many features out of the box as the native CSS. So vendor prefixing is solved. We can use nesting, pseudo elements, media queries, and also because it's CSS in JS, we can use conditional rendering, and also styled components are they have some basic support for React Native. In this example, we just declaring one single component styled button. The whole CSS declaration is in tagged templates. It's vanilla JS, I would say, feature. It's a way how to pass argument to a function. So style.diff is a function. And that means that in the production, we don't have any big CSS bundle with a lot of lines of code that are dead, unused. And also, we can use focus on hover pseudo elements. The last amazing thing that you can see is we are using theme property. It comes from theming. And the entire theming in Orbit components have other requirements because we need to support a lot of visual brands or partners. And we do it actually with styled components theming context and also design tokens. What are design tokens in the first place? They are just store variables. They consist some design-made choices a long time ago. So variables that store attributes like font sizes, spacings, and maybe even line heights, background colors, etc. In practice, the button consists of many more tokens than just this image. But for instance, you can see that we have some font family token and also font weight, bold token. They are just generic tokens. And also we have component-specific tokens, so we can change the button easily from one place. So how does the theming works? It's pretty simple because we are providing some function from the tokens, we can pass object with some overrides, and then it's gonna return full plain object of tokens. And then we just pass it to theme provider from styled components. In the end, this offers us a possibility of changing the UI pretty easily from one place, and the button can look totally different from the basic styles. Heading to the end, so what does design system or design system components offer us? Well, the accessibility part of some kiwi.com products are pretty bad, and we are aiming to improve it because we provide developers some API for components and also some guidelines how to do it. We can also make much more consistent UI that use much more consistent UX patterns. And also, at the same time, the developer can develop it much, much faster. Also, we can do pretty easily visual changes without any breaking changes in the API, only some visual breaking changes. And the last thing is that I said we can support visual branding. So that's it. Thanks for your attention. Don't forget to check out Orbit components or on GitHub, and the documentation is accessible on orbit.kiwi. Thanks a lot. Next question, why open source a component library? Oh my God.
My phone is here.
Okay, thanks. Why open source a component library that is so specific to your product? On a broader sense, what motivates you to open source the libraries? Well, maybe a few weeks ago, we decided with our Orbit lead that we want to make Orbit components the travel main or design system. And also, it's nice to have your work on a public resource so everyone can see it. And I just appreciate every contribute that you might make in the future, because your scope is not so big. What do you think?
This is the most voted.
Yeah.
This one, the second one.
This one?
Which things did you find? Yeah.
So the second question, which things did you find in styled components that are better than other solutions like Emotion.js? Well, now I don't remember Emotion.js quite good, but they are pretty similar. I think that the difference was that Emotion.js is using object for definitions of styles. And me personally, and also other colleagues, don't like that. We just are the pure CSS guys that love plain CSS. So that would be my answer to this question.
There's another like very voted question. We have some time, so maybe we can just last one. I don't remember which one you were doing. So, yeah.
Okay, so another question. Which was the migration plan from the previous solution for CSS to Orbit? Did you find a way measure the benefits? Before Orbit or our design system, there was no unified solution how to properly style components or elements on front end. So we basically we basically was the first library that said, okay, let's use this framework. And also other argument or beneficent for us was that our CSS bundle maybe 6 months ago was 1 megabyte, and probably 30% of the CSS declarations were dead, not used, and it was impossible to say what we can delete or what not. So that was our mainly argument for this.